Hello, welcome back. Let's talk about my favorite thing in the world, orcas. I recently went to the Arctic to swim with them in the wild. There were some humpbacks too, a lot of orcas, and let's talk about it. I got a ton of questions and I didn't plan on filming today, so I didn't take any notes or anything. This is super spontaneous, but I did screenshot some questions, so let's dive right in. Whenever people hear about this experience, they always ask two questions, the two big questions. A, isn't that super cold? And B, isn't that extremely dangerous? Yes, it is super cold, and B, it's not dangerous at all. But let's talk about the first question first. So, is it cold? Yeah, it's really cold. The air is about minus 10 degrees most of the days. We also had good days with like minus 5 degrees, but yeah, mostly like minus 10. And the water, the ocean, was between 2 and 4 degrees. It is cold, but you are protected by a dry suit. So what you do is you put layers on layers on layers and then put heat tech on, or warm tech. I don't remember what it was called. I think warm tech. And then you put the dry suit on. So you're not supposed to get wet if everything goes right. You have this zipper that goes along the chest or your entire torso. The two guides, Jens and Elizabeth, would always scream zipper check, and then you run to them and they check if it's fully closed, because if it's not fully closed, if there's like 2 millimeters not closed, the water will get in. Another risk where the water can get in is your neck and your wrists. There's this tiny layer of plastic or silicone, and that sits very, very tight on your skin. And if it's flipped over, if there's hair between your skin and the silicone, water can get in. That is the risk. But I think everyone made a good job of always checking each other, which I think was really nice. But I will talk about the team and everyone on board in a second, because I got extremely lucky. But anyway, temperature. While talking about the temperature, I do want to answer a second question though about daily routine. We got up every day at about like 7 a.m. and there was breakfast at 8 a.m. And then it's wait and look for whales. You can go up on the bridge and look with Jens and Elizabeth if you can see some orca blows or humpback blows out in the ocean, or you just wait for someone to scream for you, basically. So in my case, I was really sick on my time on board. I wasn't seasick, I just had food poisoning or something like that. I was really sick. So for me, it was basically just laying in bed and waiting for someone to scream for me. So yeah, basically I was in bed in the morning and then heard someone knocking on the door, like, let's go, let's go, let's go. You got like 2 minutes to get ready. And then you put all your layers on. I had like 4 layers, 2 fleeces, you know, you put all that on, run downstairs, put your dry suit on, run outside, and then there's the Zodiacs. They put the Zodiacs out on the water. And then they scream, let's go, zipper check, you check your zipper, and then you go out onto the Zodiac. And then, yeah, basically you try to find orcas or follow the orcas or see what they're doing, see if you can try and swim with them. You are out on the Zodiac for, depending on the daylight, 3, 4, 5 hours, max 5 hours, I'd say. If you come early in the year, you would have more time out on the ocean, but for us it was like 4 hours, I think. Yeah, 5 max. And then you try to look for them and wait. So while you dry, it's super warm. You like the heat tech, the warm tech, I don't know, really makes you sweat so much. Like it's so warm in there. But the second you jump in the water, you feel the ice cold water on your face, your hands, because your hands aren't protected by the dry suit. It ends here and here. So yeah, your entire head is freezing, your hands are freezing. But you don't really mind, right? Because there's 100 orcas around you, there's humpbacks maybe, there's a bait ball. You don't really care about the cold, I have to be honest, you really don't care. The moment you care though is once you're back on the Zodiac. Then you care, because then it's like hour 2 maybe, and you still have like 2-3 hours to go, and you're wet. Your feet are cold, your hands are cold, and trust me, they're really cold. I remember one day very vividly, I was freezing so hard, and we got a call from the sister ship that they spotted a lot of orcas surrounding a bait ball, which is the best opportunity to swim with them. The best opportunity. So we took off. It was a couple kilometers away, I think, so we took off. We were on that Zodiac trying to get there as fast as we can to jump in before it's over. It felt like it was never ending. I'm not gonna lie to you, it felt like it was never ending. Everyone was really on the boat, like on the Zodiac. Like I had my goggles on, like my snorkel mask on, and I was really just closing my eyes and trying to meditate, like this is just an emotion, the cold is not there, you know, it's fine, you can feel warm, it's fine. It was a brutal ride, not gonna lie, but it was worth it. That was the best day. In fact, that was the best day. But yeah, hope that answers your question about the cold. It is very cold, but also you don't really care that much. And there is a sauna on board. I didn't use it, but there is a sauna. The cabins are super warm. You can always put your feet up against the space heater when you're back, and yeah, hope that answers that question. About big question number 2, is that not extremely dangerous? No, and I could go on about that for hours, but I don't want this video to be 5 hours long, so don't get me started. But no, orcas are not dangerous at all, and the only reason you're thinking that is probably because you think of SeaWorld or Sea Life or whatever they're called, I don't know. But there was this one orca who unalived a couple people, but honestly, who can blame him? If you put an animal or any living creature in a cage and basically torture them, because this is what sea life is doing, they rip them away from their families and they torture them for years. Of course, the animal is gonna react. I'd react the same, you'd react the same. It's a living being. But no, in the wild, there has not been one case recorded of an orca hurting a human being. Not one. You see, I'm getting emotional because I'm really like, I'm very passionate about this. Not one single case, because they don't really care about you. Sometimes they do come up to you and kind of check you out because they're curious, like they want to see you just as much as you want to see them. But yeah, they don't really mind that you're there, which is an amazing feeling, but they don't care. I also got the question if they cannot mistake you for a seal. And again, no, because they have extremely precise echolocation. When they have two fish, they can tell from a distance which one is fattier and which one is better to eat, which one gives me more energy if I eat it. They can tell that from a distance, which is unbelievable. So no, they cannot mistake you for a seal. And in addition to that, the orcas we were swimming with only eat herring, because there's different types of orcas, and the ones we were swimming with only eat herring. And if you think about which ones are eating seals, they are further up in the Arctic, they're further north. Someone asked me also, what if they do take a bite? Right? Like, what if they do take a bite because they want to know what you taste like or whatever? Why don't you take a bite out of a chair? It's there, you can eat it, you know, you're just not on their menu. Just like a chair is not on your menu. It's just like the thought doesn't even occur to them that they could eat you. Yeah, hope that answers that question. The only two things that can be a bit risky on a trip like this are two things. A, the cold, because it is definitely possible to get a heart attack once you jump into the ice cold water. That is also possible if you take a cold shower though. So, you know, do whatever you think is best, but I thought that risk was okay to take. And then the second risk are the humpbacks. Not because they want to eat you or they're evil or whatever, don't get me wrong, but the risk is if the orcas form a bait ball, which are these balls of herring that they eat and they pick them out one by one. The humpbacks come from under the bait ball and kind of scoop them up like a huge bite. And they're not as precise with their movements as the orcas are. So what can happen is you're swimming on top of the bait ball is here, and then the humpback comes from down here and kind of bumps into you. That can happen, but this is why they say don't get into the bait ball. And if you do get too close to the bait ball, you can hear the guide screaming from the Zodiac, get out of the bait ball, get out of the bait ball. And then you try and get out. What definitely does happen, and it happened to me and a couple of the others as well, is you do get dangerously close to the bait ball. Not on purpose, but there's currents. Sometimes the bait ball decides to get underneath you and you find yourself in the bait ball all of a sudden. You're like, oh my god, and then you try to get away as fast as you can. That definitely happened to a lot of us, if not all of us. But yeah, you get away and nothing ever happened. So yeah. Oh nice, we got some sunlight. Before I jump into the more personal questions or the other questions that you sent me, I do want to talk about the guides, the crew, and the other people on the ship though. Because when I booked the trip, I had no idea what to expect, what age groups, which people are on the ship. So again, our guides were called Elizabeth and Jens, and I could not have been more lucky with the guides. They're both really cool people. Jens is also a wildlife photographer, so I'll put his work here. Really cool pictures. And Elizabeth has studied so long and knows so many things, and her lectures were amazing, so really could not have asked for better guides. Both amazing people. As for the people on the ship, the other passengers, yeah, I did not know what to expect. The most people were about, like, I'd say 40 to 50 years old, and then it was my partner and me, both mid-20s, and then there was this one photographer who also was kind enough to send me his drone shots. I'll put his Instagram here too. He's also really, really talented photographer. And yeah, most people were just journalists or interested in orcas or photographers. and really, really cool people. We had a great time. We played Uno every night. So yeah, really cool people all in all. I got very, very lucky. I didn't laugh that much in a long time. So yeah, I was really happy with everyone on board, to be honest. Really, it was an amazing time. I booked with Waterproof Expeditions. I'll put their Instagram right here. Then you can also see a bit what they're doing, and they do have a couple other expeditions as well. But let's get into how much it cost. So, how much did it cost? I do want to put up front, it is very expensive, and I had a lot of mental breakdowns over this, if I should do it or not. But it is my live dream, so I spent everything I got on it. This is not a paid ad. Wish it was, but I paid all this by myself. How you book is basically you send in a 30% deposit, and then 3 months prior to departure you send in the rest. And how much you pay depends on the vessel you want to be on. So for us, we were on the Virgo, and they also have the Explorer, and then another ship, I don't remember the name, but they all have a bit of a different price for the cabins. And also if you book a single cabin or a double cabin, of course we had a double cabin because we went in as a couple, but there's also solo cabins, like single cabins. And yeah, of course I don't know the price for those, but I can tell you what we paid, and I can also tell you how much the other ships were. Hold on. Most people book this trip about a year in advance. We booked kind of late. We booked in August and the trip was in November. So we got the last cabin available, which was very lucky, and it was on the Virgo, and I wrote down how much it cost. So the Virgo was 4,950 euro. And then on the Explorer, for example, the other ship, it would have been 5,500 euro. So we got the last cabin available in general, but we were just lucky that it was on the Virgo, which was the cheaper option. Anyway, I hate talking about money, so let's move on. And please, if you think about your finances in booking this trip, please think about travel insurance. That's very important. They do require you to have that, and also it's just important to have. So if you want to do this trip, please also think about that, about the flights, about accommodation. Maybe you need a hotel before and after. So yeah, please also think about that. Okay, moving on to the next question. So I'm gonna answer two. How does it feel when your big dream came true? And when and how did your passion for orcas start? I don't remember, to be honest. A lot of people assume I watched Free Willy as a kid and then I became obsessed, but I don't even remember if I ever watched that or not. I don't think so. But I don't remember, to be honest. I just know when I was about 7 or 8, the obsession began. Don't know why, don't know how, but it did. I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I was really interested in anything marine biology, but orcas really stuck with me for a reason. I don't really know why, but I became super obsessed. I wrote, like, in my little journal as a kid, I wrote articles on them, and yeah, whole obsession. And how did it feel when my dream came true? I cannot tell you. It feels like a dream. Like, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it actually happened. I always, like, every day I look at the pictures and the videos to kind of remind myself that it actually happened and I didn't hallucinate or dream the whole thing, because it does feel like it. And the moment I jumped into the water and saw them for the first time, I cannot describe the feeling. Really, I cannot describe the feeling. The whole thing is just so surreal because you're in this new environment that you've never been in before. I've never been in the Arctic. I've never been on a ship for that long. And that was amazing already. The scenery, the mountains, the moon, the temperature, you know, all of that was so incredible. And I would have been happy just like that, you know. And then I jump in the water and I see the orca swimming up to me. I see the baby, and it was unbelievable. Really, I cannot even put it into words, but it doesn't feel real. It really doesn't feel real. I have no words. I'm extremely grateful because we got so lucky with everything on the trip, with the people, with how many times we jumped in. They tell you when you once you board and once you book the whole thing, they tell you come with no expectations, come with the expectation to stay on a ship for a week and see what happens, you know, see what happens, but don't expect to see orcas because there's just a lot of things to think about, right? There's weather, there's currents. Are the orcas in the mood? And what I mean by that is maybe they're resting. You know, maybe they're just not in the mood for having people in the water with them right now. And the guides are very good at telling if they're in the mood. So, you know, there's a lot of things to think about, a lot of factors. And a lot of people on these trips are lucky if they jump in once, twice as lucky. And we jumped in every single day. Every single day of the week we jumped in, and every single day we saw orcas, which is so lucky, so lucky. And we got huge bait balls, which is so lucky. Someone also asked, I cannot find the question right now, but someone also asked what was your favorite moment on the whole trip. It was on day number 4, I think, which I would now consider the best day of my life. We had this huge bait ball, a lot of orcas, a lot of humpbacks. I jumped into the water that day. I was completely exhausted, I was so tired, I was so ill, but I jumped in the water. There is this huge male swimming up to me and looking in my eyes. I had eye contact with this huge animal for definitely like 15-20 seconds. It swam past me and kept the eye contact and then took off to go feed on the bait ball. And that experience was just unbelievable. You know, seeing them from a distance interact with each other, even that is stunning to see. But when they interact with you, it was just such an honor. You know, it's just so much trust between you in that moment, and I cannot really put it into words, and I'm about to cry. But yeah, it was the best experience of my life, for sure. Was this the start of a new career for you, or was it just to fulfill your dream? Loved your content. Thank you so much, first of all. But was it the start of a new career? I don't know, because that trip was, again, the best thing I ever did in my life, but it definitely sent me down the spiral of what am I doing with my life? I love what I do. I love tattooing, I love makeup, I love content creation, and I will continue to do all those things, but I should be on a ship somewhere, you know, like I should be studying marine biology, and this is my passion. Why am I not pursuing that? Why am I not doing that? The reason I'm not doing that is because I'm not good at science. I have an arts brain, not a science brain, so I kind of always held myself back with just, you know, I just doubted myself always so much, you know, like I don't think I can do that, I don't think I can do that, and now I'm sitting here like, why have I never just tried? You know what I mean? So was it the start of a new career? I couldn't tell you. You know, I cannot look into the future, but I will try to apply to study biology this year. You know, who knows if I get in, and who knows if I can even do it. Like, even if I get in, maybe I really just don't have a science brain and I will completely fail at everything, which would also be okay, but at least I tried, you know, at least I just tried. Next question, and I love talking about this. Was there anything about orcas you didn't know already and they told you there? Yeah, a lot of things. Elizabeth is, again, an amazing guide and knows so many things, and we had a lecture every night where either she or Jens talked about different things about orcas or photography, whales, anything. We had this one lecture on why male orcas are useless, and it became this kind of running gag on the ship, like, oh my god, am I useless? Like, the men would always say that. Yeah, this is the fact I didn't know, to be honest. I did not know how useless male orcas were. The moms are better off with their son unalive than with the son alive, just because he always gets them in so much trouble, and the mom has to feed the son for the entirety of her or his life. Of course, that takes a lot of her energy, and it was a whole topic, it was a whole thing, but yeah, I didn't know that. And also, I did know that before, but I do want to talk about it just because it's so cute. You know how human babies are chubby when they're born and they have this like baby cheeks? Orca babies have that too. They're rolled up in the womb, and then once they're born they still have the baby fat, the baby cheeks, which is an incredibly cute fact that I just wanted to tell you. Yeah. Another amazing question. What do you think about the Netflix documentary Blackfish? I have already seen parts of it at home and then I turned it off, but we also watched the whole thing on the ship for educational reasons. And the reason I turned it off when I watched it at home is because it focuses so much on the trainers. I don't want to sound heartless, but you do put this huge animal into this tiny cage, torture it for years, again, as I already talked about, and then they expect it's not gonna react. Like, of course they're gonna harm you, and I just would have wanted this documentary to talk more about how the orcas are being treated, and they did, but I feel like they went more into detail about how the trainers felt and not how the orcas and the other animals felt, which would be more of my interest, I have to say. My empathy goes out to the animal, to the orca, and not to the people who are torturing it. We can definitely discuss. If you have a different opinion on that, please, let's discuss. I'm fully open for it. But yeah, that's what I think about the documentary. I do think it pushes people maybe into the wrong direction. Of course, if you know a lot about orcas and you already love them and you're not scared of them, what this documentary is going to do to you is, oh my god, people are horrible. Like, just please let the orcas be orcas in the ocean. This is horrible. What it kind of does for a viewer who's not that familiar with orcas and orca research maybe is, oh my god, Tilikum and the other orcas are harming trainers, because it just focuses so much on the trainer's pain and the deaths that occurred, which of course tragic. Death is always tragic, but again, I just think it's tragic to pull a living being away from its family and torture it for years and then complain once it reacts. Yeah, if you have a different opinion, let me know. Happy and open to discuss, but that's what I think. This one I already replied to in detail on TikTok because I'm very passionate about this topic. Aren't orcas like kinda mean creatures? No, they're not. They're not. They're highly intelligent, highly emotional. They have very intricate family structures. The matriarch, first of all, really cool, love it. But the matriarch stays with the entire group for her entire life and teaches them everything she knows. They get very emotional when they're separated. For example, if SeaWorld takes one of them, they stay around. They're free, they can go, they can save themselves. But no, they stay around and try to see what's happening to their family member being taken. They have relationships with each other. They have different languages, and you know, there's always this debate on whether you should call it a language or not, but they have different dialects. They do not understand each other, which is another thing with SeaWorld or sea life or whatever. When you put an orca from this part of the earth and an orca from that part of the earth together in one tank, they cannot communicate. They cannot talk to each other, which is for emotionally intelligent creatures like this extremely important to be able to communicate and talk to each other, and they can't. And they cannot learn the other language or whatever. That's just not possible. Aren't orcas like kind of mean creatures? No, they're not at all. The opposite. If you saw the babies, the opposite. They're the cutest creatures and the most gentle and trusting creatures. And also that about the trust, they're feeding on this huge bait ball and they're an apex predator, right? You can just be there and observe, and they let you do that. Can you imagine sitting next to a lion eating? The lion would never let you do that. The orca is just like, oh, okay, that's fine, whatever. Which is so cool. So yeah, love orcas, not mean creatures at all. Oh right, before I forget, one question that I didn't get but that I had for the guides, because again we just got the last dates available, is when is the best time to come here? Ours turned out to be pretty amazing. We saw a lot of orcas, a lot of humpbacks. We still had a good amount of light because you know, it's polar night, it's dead of winter in Norway. Yeah, that was my question, and Jens said mid-November is best, beginning to mid-November, because you get a lot of orcas, a lot of herring, but you still have light. I mean, light, right? It's not like direct sunlight, but it's still a good amount of light. If you want to do the trip mid-November, early mid-November is best. Okay, I hope I answered most of your questions. If you do have any, let me know, because I love talking about orcas or the trip in general. So if you have more questions, please let me know. But just some general tips and advice and things I want you to know about this trip. Either before or after your trip, I would recommend to stay in Tromsø for a couple days, because the city of Tromsø is really, really nice and there's a lot of things to do. I've never been up in the Arctic or up this far north, and there's just so many cool things to do. We went husky sledding, which was really cool, and the huskies were so cute and I got so attached to so many of them. So I can really recommend that. I recommend seeing reindeer. We didn't do that unfortunately because we didn't have the budget or the time, but we saw some wild ones, which was already a cool experience. So if you get to see them up close, I would recommend you to do that. You can get up the gondola and go up the mountain and hopefully see the northern lights. There's just a lot of cool things to do in Tromsø, so yeah, I recommend you stay there and check the town out. And you know, you can have hot chocolate, they have really cool souvenirs if you want to get some souvenirs. So yeah, stay in Tromsø for a bit. My biggest concern with the whole trip was the dry suit situation, because I am super tiny. I am so short. I am 153 meters, which is 5 feet, just straight up 5 feet. And they sent you a size chart for the dry suits, and the smallest one started at 170. So I was very concerned about that, and I emailed them a couple times and they said, hey, if you're very concerned, maybe try one on and bring your own. But we do have one size XS on board, just if you're very worried, you know, bring your own. So I just hope there wasn't another person as short as me on the trip, because that would have been a problem. But that was just me. I was the only one that was that short. So I got the XS and it fit me. So if you're also just as tiny as me, there's an option for you to get the XS, but I would let them know beforehand. And also, you know, there is the risk that there's another short person on board, which would suck. So, you know, maybe just something to think about if you want to do the trip. But yeah, for me it worked out, but that was my #1 concern. So yeah, I think this is it. So again, this was super spontaneous, so I didn't take any notes or anything. So if I forgot something, please let me know. I don't think so, but you know, I might have, so let me know. But yeah, this is it. So again, thank you to the guys, thank you to the crew, thank you to everyone on board. It was the best time of my life, and if I ever get the chance to do it again, I definitely will. And I really hope so. I really hope I do get the chance to do this again. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you soon. Bye!